to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 cells. And at some point, the whole mass splits off into two. So where there was one individual, now there's two individuals. And so the question is, if there was a soul on that one individual, what did God do? Did he give the second one a soul now, or was there two to begin with, two souls in one person, and they each took one? And then the other one is, the other cases is a chimera, where it's the opposite case, where a woman could have two fertilized eggs growing. And then, so there's two basically humans in her womb, and at some point they merge together. It's called a chimera. And so the question there is, well, when they merge, does that thing now have two souls, or did one just die, or which one would die? How does that work?
Well, those
are questions.
Yeah, it was your premise that the soul comes in at conception. I don't know. I think life starts at conception. Now, whether that's the soul or not, I don't know. And what is exactly the difference between the soul and the spirit? The Bible talks about in Hebrews 4:12, I believe, about the separating of the body, soul, and spirit. I think man is certainly more than just a body. We could classify plants as living, but only having a body. Animals as living, but also having a consciousness of life that plants don't seem to have. There's something different about animals from plants. And then man would have a body, a consciousness of life, and a consciousness of a higher creator, a God. Nearly all religions of the world, all people groups of the world have some form of religion, a consciousness that there's a higher power. And so that's the point, that there's more to man than just the body or the mind. We're not just animated meat. If we are, by your definition of what humans are, how do you tell right from wrong? On any topic. Is abortion right or wrong? Is murder right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I have a totally different understanding of what morality is than you do.
Well,
I mean, I guess you must think morality is just what God says is right and wrong. You don't figure it out for yourself, right?
Well, if every man figures it out for himself, then Saddam Hussein was going around killing people. He's perfectly fine. Adolf Hitler was.
In a way, everybody does figure it out for themselves. Your choice was just to lean on God or the Bible. Somebody else might lean on the Quran. Somebody else might lean on the Book of Mormon and Hindu scriptures.
Which one's right?
In a way, you are making your own choice just to
sure, but
use the Bible.
Which one is right? Was Hitler right to do what he did?
Well, okay, we're far afield now, but I just to give a quick answer. Basically, the way I see it is, morality is all about behavior, and it comes down to what's good and bad, and good is about flourishing society, and bad is about what hurts society. I believe there is a Nazi morality. There is a Christian morality. I have a natural philosophical morality. I believe my morality is superior to your Christian morality and the Nazi morality. And if you want to ask why, we would have to talk about principles. What principles do I use? And I use like consequentialism, reciprocity, individual free rights. And why do I choose those? Because they lead to a better society. So, I mean, to me, it's all pretty logical. It's not like God said it, so I believe it kind of thing.
Well, Hitler certainly wanted a better society, eliminate the inferiors, the unfit, the mentally deficient, the mentally physically crippled. I mean, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, they're the supreme. Hey, I'm blonde-haired, blue-eyed. I don't know. Are you, Bernie? Are you blonde-haired, blue-eyed?
No, not blonde-haired.
Well, you should go ahead and kill yourself then. Let people like me take over the world.
Well, so you're a blondie, okay.
Oh, yeah, blonde, blue-eyed, natural, too, see? Look at that, okay.
Okay, well.
Norwegian, the highest race.
I can't argue against that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean. So you don't know when the spirit comes into a person, and I mean, could it be at 10 weeks, 20 weeks when they're born?
I don't know when that happens. And I think, but your premise was that because a woman can have a chimera, two eggs that merge, or identical twins where, same cell mass splits. Your premise was that if the soul began at conception, then therefore we have a problem. And I said, I don't know that we have a problem. I don't know the answer to that. But I think you are creating the problem by your premise.
Well, there's a lot of Christians going around. That's why they're so opposed to abortion, because it's like, oh my gosh, as soon as the sperm and the egg meet, there's some kind of magical moment there, and there's a soul there, and now you're killing a soul.
Well, I know. I said I think you're killing a life. Life begins at conception. Now, as far as the soul, I don't know. A good question.
Okay. Next question.
Sure.
Ready to move on?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. This one is Genesis literally true with the talking serpent, the forbidden fruit literally true? You always like to say, evolutionists, atheists, they believe that humans came from dirt or from a rock or something, right?
That's ultimately what the evolution theory teaches. Yeah, we came from a rock 4.6 billion years ago. That's exactly
but
what.
Then you realize when you're saying that you're skipping all the intermediate steps, right? I mean, humans did not come directly from a rock; they came from other animals, which life arose from non-life, etc. Right?
Well, my van did not come from a rock directly. I mean, somebody had to mine the iron ore and smelt it down and separate it and add the carbon and but it happened because of intelligence. Some intelligent people took the parts and made the parts and put it together, made it run. To say that because the van is all natural products, which it is, therefore it made itself, is ridiculous. Because man is all natural components made from the 92 elements of the earth, I agree, but it shows evidence of design and a mastermind working on those components. It's not logical to say. Go ahead.
So atheists believe that. So you're saying that atheists believe that humans came from a rock, and you also believe that humans came from dirt, literally, right?
With a designer, not without a designer. That's the vast difference. Any more than saying my van came from the iron mine, which is true, but it didn't come out of the iron by itself.
So in the Genesis it says God basically scooped up dirt, made the shape of a human out of it, and then breathed into it to give it life. You think that's literally how it actually happened?
Oh, absolutely, I do. Can a person? You do computer work, right? Can a person design bits, ones and zeros, which is simply electrical impulses? Can he put them in a certain sequence and cause it to do something? Create an action or reaction from this series of zeros and ones, the binary code? Sure, he can. It's an evidence of intelligence. And so, for God to make man out of the dust is amazing. We are made from the dust of the ground. I think everybody would agree that every component in the human body is some combination of some of those 92 elements, naturally occurring elements. So,
but wait a second. Don't you believe you're just talking about like a programmer doing engineering, but that's not what you're thinking God did. I mean, aren't you literally thinking God took dirt and basically formed it in a human by just putting dirt, just packing it together, and then brought to life by breathing into it literally? There's no programming. There's just magic, basically. He brought it in because of God's power.
Well,
God's miracle.
How he
programming in there.
Yeah, the specifics of how he did it, I don't know, but obviously we do have an incredibly complicated code, a program. The DNA is a computer program way beyond anything man's ever made. Probably just the DNA in your body is more complicated than
all. There's no mention of anything like that at all in the Genesis story. So I'm really confused as far as you saying you take it literally, but then he's saying, I don't understand. How did God do all that programming and everything if he just put dirt together?
He just spoke all the stars and the earth into existence. He didn't touch a thing. Why he chose to touch man and do something, form him, I don't know. I guess it shows we're special. But he spoke everything else, and just his word made everything else.
So I don't know. A lot of magicians sometimes people call it incantation. They'll give an incantation like abracadabra, and then poof, it happens. And
right.
So if somebody says like, well, what you're doing is just talking about magical thinking, where God just says poof and it happens, does that seem like legitimate criticism, or are you saying, yeah, that's God's magic, basically?
Well, if you want to use that terminology, I guess that's your choice of words, but the Bible says God did it, and I believe that. Is it just magic for a person to take a blank DVD and rearrange the code, or DVDs are a bad example, rearrange the code on there just by rearranging the magnetic impulses, and now it carries a message. You can put a message like a song or a movie or something on a piece of plastic by arranging those ones and zeros. Yeah.
Right, but there's nothing supernatural in there. Whereas, like when Jesus changes water into wine, there is no way logically that could happen because there's many processes to go to grow grapes and press them and age it and all that stuff. And here Jesus did it and one, waving his hand or whatever he did over it.
Well, yeah, that's what he said he did. I believe that. Now, that sure beats the theory of evolution, which says all this same stuff happened with nobody doing that, nobody touching it, nobody designing it, just blind chance. You're the one that's got the wild religion, in my opinion, to believe that there is no God to do this. It's like if I showed you, if you're walking along the beach and you find a computer or a cell phone washed up on the beach, and I said, who made it? And you said, well, nobody. I found it on the beach. Well, it's too complicated. Waves don't do that with silicone on the beach. The sand.
So one of the common complaints on that is that when you say you find a watch or something, you're talking about finding things that we know that humans created, and when you look at the DNA, this is not something that humans created. I mean,
but Bernie, if the DNA is a billion times more complicated than the watch, then it's common sense 101 to say, if the watch was created, the human who found it must have been created.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's fair to say it's more complicated. I mean, if you want to, you can make somebody could probably make an argument that a snowflake is so complicated, you could just put a microscope on it and look how intricate the patterns are and all this. It's hard to say. I mean, working in computers, I know how powerful computers are, and there's computers can do things that people can't. So I mean, it's like apples and oranges. There's a different kind of complication.
Okay, well, would you agree that given...
I mean, so like, for example, some people say the human brain is the most complex thing in all the universe. I don't know if you can say that. Supercomputers are, in some ways, much more complicated than the brain. It depends on what the function, what they're trying to do. I mean, if you want to drive a car, right now I'd rather have a brain, but if you want to simulate a nuclear explosion, I'd much rather have a supercomputer. I mean, you can't do that. A supercomputer can do things in hours or days that a human would take a billion years to do by hand and still mess up.
Well, unless you look at the fact that you can imagine an atomic explosion in a matter of a microsecond, whether you can simulate the whole thing or not.
But you couldn't simulate it and find out the exact, what would exactly happen, which this is what they're doing with simulations. They're getting exact results without doing it in real life because of their calculation power. Like working in the computers, we actually, the amazing thing is working on these advanced computer chips, we actually simulate computer chips before they're built. They actually get the bugs out of the design code before it's actually even built. That's how well they can simulate them, because they know what the process technology is like, and it's kind of mind-boggling, the computational capabilities.
Well, and there's nobody with half a brain and one eye that would think the computer happened by chance, and yet they think the human cell happened by chance, or a blade of grass happened by chance, which is able to reproduce itself, which adds billion more levels of complexity, and is able to...
Like I said, we know what humans can make, though. It just seems like it's apples and oranges comparing biology to man-made devices.
Okay, well, I think it's a fair analogy. I think...
The fascinating thing there, too, is, with human DNA engineering, like with this CRISPR thing, they're starting to modify the DNA code, so it'll only be a few more years where they could actually create things with DNA, and it's going to be interesting to see what actually creatures are going to develop, and they'll probably do it much more efficiently, like have smaller genomes because there's less waste and everything in them. So that's going to be interesting.
Or they might create something for which there is it creates a bigger problem, like bringing kudzu vine to the United States. We've got them growing every place now, or feral animals that should not be in a certain place because they have no natural enemy, like the starlings brought to America. So maybe what science, I mean, you have great dreams and visions of it improving things. Maybe it's going to make it worse.
Okay. One last question on this. Somebody said, it was interesting how in the Bible, the devil in the Old Testament, he's just a talking serpent. He's got no power, really, in the Genesis. He doesn't really do much, but by the time you get to the New Testament, this devil is everywhere, tempting everybody. It's like, how did the devil get so escalated up there, like godlike powers from the Old Testament to the New Testament?
I never thought about that one. That's a good question. Maybe he had those powers all along. The Bible says in Ezekiel 28 that he was the anointed cherub that covereth. He was very proud of his wisdom, his beauty, his power. That's another whole theological study, I guess, someone could do on Satan and the origin and who is this guy? What's he like? And he certainly was created. He's part of the ordinary creation. He's not God. And we're going to marvel one day when we see him cast into hell. We're going to say, this is the guy that did all this trouble? I always think of the Wizard of Oz movie when they pulled the curtain back, like, This is the guy pulling the mirrors and smoking mirrors, and that's it. That's what we're going to say when we see Satan, I think. But I don't know. We'll see Judgment Day.
It's kind of interesting. In Genesis verse 3:1, it's kind of interesting how it says, now the serpent was more crafty than